God put us on this earth not to buy fancy cars or to have cool houses or go on cool trips. He got here to have families and make connections and love your neighbors and help people, and like it should be that simple.
Welcome to the Spero Means Hope podcast, where we take storytelling to a whole new level by sharing amazing patient stories, interview experts in the community, and share resources for clinicians and students. So today we have with us Ricky Bragg. Good morning, Ricky.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, and how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm just on a good stretch. Life is doing good at the moment.
Yay, I love to hear that. And Ricky is one of our amazing patients at Spero. And real quick, before we get started, I just wanted to say that you were actually the inspiration for the podcast. So when I first thought about the Spero Means Hope project, I was just thinking about like writing stories in a written format. And it wasn't until we're working together and then you were sharing about just your life and talking. And I was just listening to you talk. And it's in that moment that I was like, this cannot be just written. Like, it has to be something where we actually get to hear like your voice directly. So
Yeah, it has a
thank you for
different
being the inspiration.
Awesome. That makes me happy. Hey, God works in
Yeah,
mysterious ways, right?
he sure does. He sure
Absolutely.
does. Okay, Ricky. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where you're from? What do you do for a living? Or what do you do for fun?
Um, so my name's Ricky Bragg. I was born in San Antonio, moved to Houston when I was a kid, like 3 or 4 years old. So I grew up in the spring area of Houston. Um, Went to high school at Klein, stayed around that area, and then when I got married about 10 years ago, I started doing custom cabinets, which brought me to Katy. And I've been out in Katy for 7 years. And prior to the injury, I was, an athlete, so I played baseball like crazy, outdoors, loved fishing, the water, beaches, anything outdoors really. Which, ironically, I broke my neck in a swimming pool, which, you know, I don't get mad at the water. It was the concrete's fault, not the water, so I still love the water. Um,
Yay.
but yeah, the injury was 2 years ago where I did dive into a swimming pool and broke C6. It's been 2 years since that, so my hobbies and stuff have definitely changed a lot. But life's not over. I'm still finding new ways to do stuff. This is definitely the biggest challenge in my life because there's a lot of physical limitations. So it's gonna be a 5 year, 6 year, lifelong, adjustment. But it's I'm definitely at a good, stable part right now. Like the first 2 years, I feel like had a lot of just chaos and figuring stuff out. And this is probably the best time to do this podcast because I'm at a stable part where I can kind of process how things were and look back on life and, not be so close to crying at all moments of every day. So it'll be a more productive talk. But yeah, I still love the outdoors. God blessed me and did not affect my brain. I still am the same me. I'm not held back anything with speaking or thinking. Or if you ask my wife, I'm still a little slow and a little ridiculous, but that was prior to the injury.
That was
Yeah.
before, huh?
But
Oh, I
yeah,
love
I'm
that.
married and I have two kids. I have a 9-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. And we just got
Two
a
beautiful
brand new
kids
golden
too.
doodle puppy. That's our new
Oh,
addition.
oh, I didn't know you had a puppy.
Yeah, we just surprised the kids for Easter. And I
Nice.
actually drove to go pick it up, and they were in Dallas, and they met us in Palestine, Texas. And we stayed in Conroe, and I drove 2 hours up and 3.5 hours home. So 5.5 hours I
Wow.
drove straight. That was a big
That's
accomplishment.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
amazing. Okay. So for those not familiar with a spinal cord injury, can you explain a little bit about like what is your functional level? So what can you do by yourself and what do you need help with?
Okay, so like I broke C6, and right when I hit, it was like I don't know, it was like an on off switch. It was weird. I felt a humming, like a boo, and it just everything from the neck down. And unfortunately, I was at the bottom of the pool, so I just floated at the bottom and just sat there and like in the shock of not being able to move, but looking up, trying, wanting to breathe. And I finally got pulled up after I choked on the water a little bit. So I had nothing from the neck down, and it was like that for the first few months, and it's been a gradual, slow recovery, and you can almost, for me personally, can pinpoint as it's slowly waking up, and it's hard not to get discouraged because of how slow it is. Like there can be a month or 2 months where nothing changes that much until you look back on it and go, "Oh wow, I did that easier." And now my lower back is starting to engage where I can sit upright and try to be on the mat with no support, like sitting upright. My chest has started working, so I can actually flex my chest. I have feeling all over my body, which is nice, so I don't have too much worries for like skin breakdown or bruises or anything because I can tell when I need to move anything, so it helps me a lot. My hopes are that it wakes up more and more and more, but the surgery is the most, you know, craziest thing to not know where you're going to be in 5 years. Like, not life wise, everyone has that, but like physically, like, I might have a hand wake up, I might have two, I might have core get really good, I might start getting leg movement, or maybe this is where it's at and nothing changes. Like, you just have to know I got to work really hard every day, be uncomfortable, do the things that are painful and awkward, and in hopes of getting anything and everything you can. A lot of praying, a lot of family support, a lot of just, hard days, and you just got to do it. You got to find your support group, like find your close friends, family, loved ones, use them for motivation, anything to push yourself. Don't just get stuck in the mindset of, oh my God, this happened to me, poor me, this is so hard, no one understands. Because I get that, I do. And then that's a big part of it. But it's also killed your family, man, and your friends. Like, there's a lot of people that got affected by your injury more as well as you. So keep that in mind and put the same effort into those relationships as you do with your body, because that healing can be a huge benefit to you as well, because those connections get better, you get more positive, you get happier, life gets better, and that will reflect in your working out and your recovery big time.
That's amazing advice. You know,
Thank you.
you mentioned earlier how you're happy you're doing the podcast now because how you were mentally 2 years ago was completely different.
Yeah.
What do you think like really helped you like shift to like the initial like feelings that you had 2 years ago to where you are now in that like more positive space?
Yeah, definitely time, you know, heals and it slowly gets better, but I think to me personally, being in pain all the time and being sick or having things happen, like, is very discouraging to me. And at the beginning, there's so many things that get thrown at you, like the shock of, oh my gosh, my body is so different, and how am I gonna figure life out? To, having accidents was a huge one for me. Learning the cathing valve program and stuff, like, as much as family and loved ones say, "Hey, it's okay, sweetie, everyone does it and it happens." There's nothing more humiliating than having accidents on yourself, and it's just, you can't. You can be empathetic to someone, but until, like, you're in that position, you just don't understand. Like, having a loved one clean you up is just, that was a big one for me. And then I struggled with some UTIs at the beginning, and going into the hospital is very depressing. I don't want to feel like I'm going backwards. So those two were big. And then as I started pushing myself harder at therapy, and I've always done pretty well since I started Spero. I've been trying to go 4 or 5 days a week. I try to maximize how hard I work at home. And I think, about at the 1.5 year mark, when I went and did that surgery in Mexico, I started getting stronger. My body started getting stable, and health wise and physically wise. Like, I got to a point where my butt's not hurting every day. Strong enough to do some things, and my mental place just got so much better.
Can you talk a
There
little bit
you
more about
go.
Mexico? Like, what surgery did you get, and how did that impact you?
Yeah, so I flew to Guadalajara, Mexico. They installed the two epidural stimulators on my spinal cord, one in, like, chest level, like in the back, and one lower, and then two batteries, one on each hip, that have cords running under the skin to the stimulators. And when I woke up from surgery, they turned it on just to test the thing, and I swear, when it shocked me, oh my, I did not just pay $160,000 to get electrocuted every day. Like, what has happened? And what a refund. So the first month, there's like 12 electrodes. So there's it's a row of 5, then 6, 5, and each one can be a positive and a negative, and they can arc it in any direction. You can have 6 positives, 2 negatives. It's a lot of work. So the first month, we literally turned on this one, turned on that one, did this, did that, and saw when they click it on, does this move, or do I say, oh, that muscle's flexing? And we were able to dial it into my programs, and I have 2 programs for my hands. When I turn it on, my hands close, and I can. That's the biggest one I use, because I put it on for weights and working out, and I'm able to hold dumbbells, grab this, and work out, and that's huge, because using active hands takes forever. But overall, I thought it was a success. I mean, that's what kick-started my improvement 7, 8 months ago, and getting stronger and starting to transfer and starting to drive, and, like, a lot of things started happening because of it, which some was just me working hard, but it gave me the ability to work even harder and get stuff faster. So it was worth it. Minus the first thought of, does that
Electrocution.
escape my body? And now it's like, okay, I've gotten used to the electrocution, and it's not so bad.
Yeah, and I can honestly say, like, you are so much stronger. Just watching you doing everything and all of those transfers, it's really crazy to see the transformation and
For
how
sure.
much you're doing. And about that, what are some big milestones you feel like you've hit in your recovery?
And the biggest one was driving. Well, the most impactful was driving because a year and a half of having my wife have to drive me everywhere, and then baseball and gymnastics having to drive and drop me off here and drop Green off here and da da da. Once I started driving, my routine now is I drive myself to therapy. I pick up the kids every day from school. I take Karina to gymnastics. I coach my son's baseball team, so pick him up, take him to practice, do all of that, and that's been amazing to helpful, like actually help, like, without having hands and being able to. There's not a lot the first year I felt like I did helpful. I felt like a burden, and it's, you know, I know she said I wasn't, but in reality, it's just a lot of work and not a lot of help. So that was a huge milestone to start driving. But also starting to transfer. I'm strong enough now to not just push myself and slide. I can actually like extend on my arm and pop up and do some cool transfers. And I just did my last transfer like a week ago of being able to go from the shower chair to my bed. And that was the last thing we were using the Hoyer lift for. So
Mm-hmm.
I can finally donate that bad boy or get rid of it. So that's
That's
exciting.
awesome.
That's a milestone just happened last
Yes.
week. So
Yes.
that's they're always
Congratulations.
happening. I think another one was learning to cath myself um,
Mm.
for independence and driving and being out shopping and doing stuff like not having to have a Foley in to do all that to be able to cath myself was awesome. I did get a couple UTIs at the beginning because I wasn't so careful or I had to learn and get used to it. But find you a good urologist, one that you can get a relationship with and talk through stuff because there's different catheters, there's different medicines, there's different techniques and everything that they can help you with and urodynamic studies, all that. But try to do that and make yourself do that, and that goes with the pushing yourself to with relationships and everything because it's sucks when you're trying to figure it out and you pee on yourself or you leak or have trouble with it. But when you make those milestones, woo, it's awesome. Like, oh, another big one was finding a caregiver that could help a few times in the morning, and they were super expensive, and I couldn't pay that much. My wife wanted to go back to work at the school, and that's not a lot of money, but we needed that separation of husband wife. Like I couldn't be caregiver and patient anymore. It was draining our marriage big time. So when I found the caregiver we have now, man, she's such a blessing, and she is all about like, hey, let's do the bowel program. I'll help you. I'll help you do this. I'll help you do that. And now we got a heck of a routine that like my routine right now is awesome. Like, I won't plug the therapy place I go to. It's not very good, so I wouldn't. I go to Spero Rehab, the best place ever. Awesome.
We're okay.
Oh, whatever. Like y'all became family. Like the OTs and PTs
Aw.
and the bond you get there is there's nowhere like it. I've been to a couple others. It was uncomparable. Like y'all guys are awesome, really are. After I'm done working on my body, like for the next couple more years, I'm not gonna go back to work, but I think I'm gonna try to go to different therapy places and be a positive and try to reach out to people and help. I think God took me from what I was doing. I was so set on my career and working hard and making money and that wasn't the path he wanted for me. I wasn't spending as much time with my kids. I was working like a maniac. And as a man, you got to provide for your family, so it's not the worst thing. But, I was always thinking what bill, what bank account this, where I needed to invest this, what job I had, and it was not as much. Wonder how my kids are doing. Wonder how my wife's doing, or I need to go to this event, or hey, that homework test is coming. Do you need help? I just wasn't because I was tired when I got home, or a lot of nights I worked late. They were asleep when I got home. So God pulled me from that, and I believe He wants me to help people more than just be a hard worker. And when I was fighting for my life in a coma, man, I was like coherent. I was there. And all I could think of was, man, God, if you can let me out and spend time and then just see one more day with my kids, my wife, my family. Like, I was like, I don't care if I can only blink. If I can't, like, just let me hug my kids one more time. Like, it was so surreal to be swiped of everything in my life. Like, I don't care. None of it mattered. Nothing. Nothing. Like, that is like the most humbling feeling to completely lose attachments to everything. Like, you're so, like, I don't know, like it just, everything made sense at that point. Like God, your loved ones are being there for people. Like, God put us on this earth not to buy fancy cars or to have cool houses or go on cool trips. He got here to have families and make connections and love your neighbors and help people, and like, it should be that simple. Like, life shouldn't be as complex as we make it. It really shouldn't. I mean, if people could just slow down and look out for the people next to them, a lot of things would change. A lot of things would be different.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't end up in with that mindset until they get really old and they figure stuff out, or have a major accident, or some people like Mercy are blessed with good insight.
Stop. Stop. Stop.
You
Stop.
are. Not a lot of people have your mindset at your age, so I congratulate you. Are impressed
You're
by
so
it.
kind. I say I like how you're reflecting on like the lesson learned and like the things that the way that you look at things differently now than like how you looked at things before. And like I think that's really like impactful because I think we don't think about those things enough. And for you you've had this like crazy thing that completely changed your life, and the lessons that you've drawn from that is very, very inspiring. Very
When I
inspiring.
was in the coma, I there was one point where I think I was dying. Like, I think that's when I had the seizure, the little seizure, and it felt like my body started breaking. Like, it just kept twisting and twisting, and then my head was like da 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 da, and it hurt and it hurt, and it got so painful. Like, I was about to just give up, and I heard, like, hold on, you can do it. Like, hang in there, hold on. Like, just these positive little phrases, and all of a sudden, like, I felt my hands wrapped the right way, and then my arm started untwisting, and my back started unbreaking. And I go, oh, look, an arm's moving. And I moved an arm, and then my legs, and then I stood up, and they said, see, I knew you could do it. And I started walking, and I was in my room. Like, I saw the TV, I saw the same nurse, the same face, and I looked, but my body was still there. Like, it was just me in the room, and I didn't think, oh my gosh, look, I'm out of my body. I was just at peace, and I started walking out, and it was this huge concrete wall, or like a big, like, stone wall with a big, like, horizon behind it, and I saw all these people outside walking, going towards the entrance. I couldn't make out faces, but I could just feel their presence, and I was at so much peace to just go in there, and I heard the voice like, you can go or you can go back. Like it was kind of like a choice whether I'm ready to go or if I have stuff I want to do here. And I went back in the hospital, went to my room, and I sat there and looked, and I said, try to open your eyes. And I just struggled and struggled, and I finally squinted them open, and I saw my mom and my dad. And when I finally did get them open, I was so excited. Like they said, I was like, like, like I had all those tubes in my throat, so I couldn't talk. And I was trying so hard to talk. My mom was like trying to guess, and she was getting upset and starting to cry. Like, baby, I don't know what you're saying. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I started like crying and tearing. Like I was trying so hard to get it out. And so they got a big board. One of the nurses brought a big board with a dry erase, and they wrote all the letters to the alphabet, and they pointed letter by letter, and it took forever. And it finally said, I just got to meet God and talk to him. And it was it was the it's the coolest feeling ever. Like at that moment, I knew God was real. Like I knew what I just went through. I knew I got a second chance to come back, and I wanted to like tell all this, and I couldn't. It was so sad, but once they got those few words out, like I just saw God, and they were hugging me, and it was cool. And then I fell back asleep, but that was an amazing moment of clarity for me. And after that, it was only another day or two, and I was out of the coma and starting to be awake, and then that whole process started, and that was an awesome kickstart, or like a, you know, that's when
Wow.
that's when I started having the deep thoughts of like life and what I should do and what my goals are with my kids, and it all started to change then.
Wow, you were like this just gave me like chills, like just listening to that. It's crazy. Like I had never heard you like talk about that specific part, and it
Yeah,
just like gave me chills. Like
it
that
was
is crazy.
it was an awesome thing. I know like
Wow.
a lot of people say when they're like near death, they have those God moments, and I hate when I hear scientists say that that's just a chemical, this and that in your brain. No, it's not. Like if you're saying
Wow.
that, you're trying way too hard to prove it wrong. Like just let it be.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. My last week, I remember I was there, and a guy came in next to me, and he was choking on the phlegm, and he kept pushing his button. He's nurse, nurse, and he couldn't do it, and he couldn't do it, and I could hear him, and I was like hitting my button, and I could yell out. I was like nurse, nurse, and I got him, and I said, man, I feel you. I said, I know what you're going through is horrible, and that was the moment I realized how much of a connection I can make with people that are going through this. Because if you're a little past them, or you can be empathetic, and they know like, oh, you've gone through it, you can be a big positive. And I could have used some guys like that at the beginning, and I didn't have it. I hadn't made any connections like that, and I think that's a big motivator for me wanting to help people. Once I get more time, and I feel like I can back off of therapy a little and spend more time, doing that stuff, is when you're at therapy, you don't see, or out of therapy, you don't see a lot of guys that are doing good, that are on the other side of it. They're the ones that typically, oh, nice, and they go about their lives. So the ones you do see are the ones that are struggling, that are in it right now with you. And so you can be like, oh, this sucks together, but it's not the big motivation you need. Like if there was someone that came out of it that told me, hey, the first year is terrible, but this is gonna happen, and at the 2 year mark you're gonna rock and roll, like that type of stuff would have gone a long way for my mental state. So I want to be that voice for people, and I want to be the one that worked my butt off and got better and sticks around and helps people, and is a voice, and let God kind of use me as a testimony to help people.
Is that something you wish was like incorporated like in a hospital, kind of like a peer support group, or do you feel like it just needs to happen more like organically, like outside of the hospital?
I think both are good. I think they had the peer group, but those guys would come and they would sit in a room and kind of talk amongst themselves, and there wasn't a whole lot of interaction between us guys struggling and them. They would just come and hang out together, and that's good and all for them to keep going and stuff, but it wasn't the interaction I needed for someone struggling and someone doing good. It was like either good guys here and the struggling ones here. So I think if it was incorporated the right way, it could be really helpful. But the organic stuff is just hits a little deeper, I think, and happens a little naturally. And because I think it takes someone like me that maybe realizes what God's trying to do or what I need to do, and can have the right personality to go and meet with them, because
Warm, friendly
yeah,
person.
there can be places that incorporate it and talk up someone into it and not really be a charismatic or a guy that connects really
Yes.
well, and they just come to you and they're like, everything's gonna get better, just keep working, all right? And you're like, I'll get that. Get out of here, dude.
But you
So
do
yeah.
have that amazing personality. You're like you do have that charisma, and I think like the way that you like bring in humor and crack jokes here and there, but also like brings it down to where it's real. I think that hits very deep, very deep. And I think also you being a father and a dad like brings in like a different facet, because as people go through like an injury, like whatever responsibility they had prior, that's also affected. So you being able to have those relationships and maybe connect with other people that have the same injury as you, um, in like address topics like intimacy and relationships and fatherhood and stuff like that. That's very very unique, right? Because like you said earlier, it's like people can empathize, but it takes someone to have gone through it to say like, I actually know what that feels like, you know.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard stuff. Like sports or your job or even like some family members. That's something you can turn off or you can not deal with, or you can be like, oh, this injury, I'm not worried about that right now. Kids and a wife, that ain't going nowhere. You have to do that. And you're either gonna if you like make the mindset to do it, or you're gonna lose them. And that's a something someone you have to go through to talk deeply about it with someone else, because that's scary stuff and that's sad stuff, and those have been moments that have broke my heart, like seeing your kids look at you different or like grow apart from you. Like I'm so close with my daughter, but seeing her start getting attached more to my wife is just the heart. Oh, I don't cry. That's a that's a hard thing to go through. So they've also brought tons of joy, but I don't think I've ever felt my heart hurt or be as joyful as I have with being kind of trapped, like where at the beginning when I couldn't move or do a lot, like you're just in your head. And man, the sad parts are just crazy sad, and then the joyful parts, like hugging them, how happy it makes you feel to have one in your arms. When I first came home and I was a snuggler with my kids, and I was like, man, what if I can't snuggle with them anymore? And I got in bed and they both crawled in onto each arm, and it didn't hurt my side or my arms, and man, I cried like so much that night. I was so happy that I was still able to snuggle them for the night. So you get the joys and the sads from it. So I can definitely relate to people with wives and kids on how hard that can be because it's just different. You know, like I put that in a whole different category than the physical because that's a lot of mental and emotional, and you got to work on those relationships, and you got to find that joy, and you got to get stable, and you've got to work on a relationship with God. Like all that stuff will help, and it gets better, and it really does get better. And I wish I could just know the people that really need me to like be by their side or help them, because I would be there and I would do it. Whew, I hope I get to the point where I can like know that I really helped someone through one of those moments or got through, because I'm sure as like therapist you get to see some really cool stuff and be like, oh my god, I got to help through that. And like even with me, I mean, we've shared so many things together and had so many moments that were awesome, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade them for the world. So I'd like to get on that side of it. Not be the
Yes.
patient, but be the helper. You know what I mean?
And honestly, Ricky, I feel like you're already doing it. And I can see the people that you've mentioned, I can see how they look whenever you're like well away. Like I can see the impact that you're doing. And so I feel like it's just going to keep growing
Girl.
tenfold to where you're going to be impacting people. I was wondering how can people support you? So I'm talking about loved ones that have someone that like they're close to you that got injured and maybe they don't know what to say or they don't know what to do. Like what is the worst thing someone can say or do, or what is the best thing someone can say or do that is like sympathetic or empathetic but that is not also offensive at the same time?
Sincerity, sincerity is the key to me. And it can be on any topic or on any level. But when I can tell someone's sincere, is it hits different. Like you kind of just in one ear out one ear all the people that say, "Oh man, that's got to be tough, but you'll get through it. I know for a fact you'll be walking, or you're gonna be fine, or that stuff just doesn't is not that helpful. Even though it comes from good, like I know they're saying it to be positive, but it's not really that helpful. To me, I'd rather someone give me a good hug or relate in some way with a personal struggle or a personal anything. It can be joyful, a personal joyful thing that happened, but just to kind of relate on a more specific level where I know that it means something. That stuff is really helpful. Not to say I don't want people to be like, oh, things will get better. It's not the most helpful. So like with you as a therapist, y'all are really good. The reason I fell in love with Spero is because y'all are not just okay, 10 reps of this, okay, 3 sets of this. Y'all will get on a level with me while we're working out about the serious stuff, the painful stuff, the y'all shared the happy moments with me. Like we've connected so much. Y'all are embedded in my life. Like y'all know about my marriage, about my kids, about everything. And I think that is so much more helpful than me going to drill sergeants or even a place that works me out really hard. That could be cool and there's a place for it, but I would never leave Spero because of the relationships I've made. Like that stuff just has gotten me through tons. Like when I wasn't reaching out to people, y'all were the only ones I talked to for a while. So I love all you guys. I do.
Man, Ricky, all the feels like all the feels like that means a lot. Like that really means a lot.
So, mean a lot to me for sure.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned like, your faith a lot and then your family. I wanted to give you the opportunity to like give shout outs to like, loved specific loved ones that you feel like have been so instrumental to your recovery? Like if you had like a thank you list to give, like who would be on there?
For sure. Of course, my mom stepped in huge, and my stepdad. You know, they will do anything for me. Like my mom's literally flew to Mexico with me for a month. She's done bowel programs. She's been like all of it, and it almost killed her when I almost died. Like what I what it did to her. Like that was a surreal thing for me to see how much it affected her or my wife. Like you know, them two, I couldn't have done it without. Of course, my wife and my kids are number one. Like, but they live with me. They're gonna be number one. My wife has had to do so much and take on such a burden that I'm glad I've gotten a caregiver and gotten to give her some space and like give her that blessing. Kind of what I said earlier is working hard to like show someone you appreciate it and you want to give them some space or some help. But then I have my siblings. Like my brother was Macaulay is a big one. He's at the beginning would pick me up out of my chair like a baby and put me in the seat at the movie theater so I could feel regular. Or he took me to the dentist and carried me into the dentist seat so I could do that. He's dropped everything he was doing at times just to come watch a movie in bed with me, and he's always there to hug me if I'm crying or to cry with me, and he's been awesome. And then I have two sisters that have been there, Marissa and Nikki. My sister lives in Florida, so it's hard for her to be there, but she flew here and stayed a month while I was in Tier with Andre and the kids. And then while we were in Mexico, she kept my kids for a month, so that was something I couldn't have done without. And then I have my family in San Antonio that have been awesome. They flew here constantly and stayed. I have a cousin named Lauren that stayed for like 3 weeks and gave the best massages on my hands and head, along with my nanny. Like every time they come, I'm like, "Hi guys!" Like, yeah, dude. Like one time they forgot, and I called her when she left. I said, what just happened? Like, you're gonna have to come back because I'm like, I feel totally forgotten." And I have an aunt and uncle, two aunts out there that have been awesome, Karen and Alicia. I had one friend who was my best friend, man. And when I met him 14 years ago, he was so shy, had no friends. He was like 400 pounds and he got lap band surgery and dropped like 200 pounds. All the time, I didn't really recognize, oh, he's really shy. I was just jumping on him, hugging on him, and we became friends. And his mom swears that I changed his life by getting him out of the house. I brought him to live with me for a year, and I got real close with his mom, and she just would always thank me for what I did. And unfortunately, he would tell me all the time, like, Ricky, I don't know what I would do without you if something, if you, my biggest fear in life is for you to quit being friends with me. And we read his journal like 6 months ago, and it said that same thing. Like, my biggest fear came true when Ricky got hurt. I don't know what to do. I lost my buddy, and unfortunately, he killed himself. And I want to give a shout out to him because he was like a brother, man, and he was always there for me and got me through so much before the injury. And we talked on the phone for hours, like we were that kind of friends. And I couldn't not give a shout out to him. And I hate that he killed himself because of me. Like I can't take the whole burden, and his mom tells me not to. But if I didn't get hurt, he wouldn't be dead, and that's like the facts of it. And, you know, definitely, I love that dude. So big shout out to my man Elijah for sure. Hopefully he's happy. Hopefully he's, you know, got the best body up there in heaven floating around so happy, shirtless walking around. I've made Diego's another friend that he's a positive guy that I met later on, and we go out to lunch, you know, once, twice a month, and he's pretty motivated because he pushes himself quite a bit. So he's someone that like I was like, man, I wish I had a couple like that early on because it would have been a lot more helpful. So I want, you know, to do that for people early on. The first year is so hard and chaotic, and that first year I think is big to make connections and to get help. And if you have kids and wife, it's big for someone like me to talk to that can be empathetic or that is like that, but also for people that don't have that because they don't have that push that first year. Like I had to get up, I had to keep moving. Like I couldn't let my kids see me just wither away or my wife. So I'm here for y'all. Anyone listens to podcasts and needs to reach out to me, reach out to me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going backwards, only forward. Gotta keep going.
Wow. Ricky, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. Like the story that you shared about like you like post injury, but also like, your story from before and the one that you just shared now. Like thank you for
Mm-hmm.
taking the time to like just talk about all of those things. I know it's going to be super impactful for someone. Yeah. And you
Absolutely.
said earlier, so people can follow you at Rolling with Ricky.
Yeah.
Okay. On
Well,
YouTube
Ricky is
and
on
TikTok.
TikTok and on YouTube. And you
Okay.
can direct message me. I have people from my Burrito Neuro that send me people all over the world that call and ask about my story. And I'm gonna start on my TikTok channel doing um, quadriplegic skills and quadriplegic tools episodes.
Yes.
I just did my first one where I learned how to take my shirt off, and I call it the chicken wing. And and you pull your shirt over your elbow, like at the bottom, with no
Hmm.
hands, and then when you pull it up and do the chicken wing, and on the video, just do it until the
You
shirt
have to make
pops
the
over your
noise too.
shoulder. Yeah, until it pops over your shoulder, you can get it off, and it was a cool skill to learn how to get my shirt off. But I'm gonna start showing the ways I learned how to roll out of bed, to transfer, to get clothes off, and I still have a lot of things to learn. Like I haven't learned shorts yet, or socks, or
Mm,
so check out my channels, follow, reach out. I'm
yes.
here. Let's do it together. Let's encourage each other. Let's love one another. Let's befriend people. Let's be positive. Quit hating. Quit being negative. The world's got
Mm-hmm.
enough negative. I'm telling you. Let's be there for each other. And it's so much cooler to make good connections and have relationships with your therapist, with your neighbors, with your family. Like it's better. Trust me, it is. Let your guard down.
Let
Don't
your
be
guard
so
down.
don't be so guarded, and I'll push you if I need to. Come on.
Yeah. Aw. Thank you, Ricky.